The moment he pointed at me, the room went quiet. The food's not for you. Just drink water. It was my father's 57th birthday. White tablecloths, imported wine, a giant cake with gold candles, 30 guests in polished outfits, laughing, drinking, eating. And me, standing near the back, holding a gift bag no one noticed, in a dress I'd second-guessed 3 times before walking out the door. I hadn't been invited. I found out through my uncle's Facebook post. But I showed up anyway because he's my father. I thought maybe it was just an oversight. Maybe I'd still be welcome. Instead, I got pointed at like a stranger interrupting a private dinner. I looked at my brother. He smirked into his champagne. My mother didn't even meet my eyes. A few people shifted awkwardly, like they could feel something cruel, but didn't want to be the one to call it out. So I smiled. Tight. Polite. Hollow. Then I walked to the table where I'd set my purse, pulled out my phone, and opened my travel app. The surprise I had planned. 3 non-refundable first-class tickets to Paris. 1 for my dad. 1 for my mom. 1 for my brother. I had been saving for a year. Flights. Boutique hotel. Michelin-starred dinner. Eiffel Tower reservation. Everything. I canceled them all in under a minute. $18,750. Gone. Then I picked up my coat, left the gift bag on the floor, and walked out without a sound. No one followed me. No one called. And in that moment, on the steps outside that too-perfect rented venue, surrounded by music and muffled laughter, I finally understood. They didn't forget me. They left me out on purpose. My name is Lena Farrow. And from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me. Because the day they told me to just drink water was the last time they ever got to sit at a table I built. You don't become the uninvited daughter overnight. It starts slowly in the small things. Like when my brother got a brand new car for graduating community college, and I got a generic card for finishing my MBA. Or when they forgot to tell me about family dinners. But somehow I was always the one expected to remember birthdays, send flowers, cover emergencies. I used to call it forgetfulness. Then I called it favoritism. Now I call it what it really is, a hierarchy. And I was never at the top. Growing up, my brother Jason could do no wrong. When he flunked out of his first college, my parents said he's finding himself. When I got straight, as they said, don't get cocky. I was the serious one, the quiet one, the overachiever. I didn't ask for much, and they took that as an invitation to give me even less. At every holiday, Jason's name was first on the gift tags. Every conversation circled back to his problems, his girlfriends, his plans. If I spoke up, I was interrupting. If I stayed quiet, I was moody. Still, I kept trying. I showed up to birthdays with thoughtful gifts, even when I wasn't thanked. I helped plan my parents' anniversary trip last year. Paid for half of it too, even though Jason didn't contribute a cent. I called to check on my mom when she was sick, sent groceries when Dad threw out his back, offered to help Jason with his business pitch. All of it ignored, dismissed. But this trip to Paris? That was going to be my gesture, a peace offering, a way to say, despite everything, I still care. 3 tickets, first class, a hotel in Le Marais. I even booked a walking tour of the Louvre because my dad once said he'd like to see it before he dies. And still, I wasn't invited to his birthday. Not even a text. Just a table full of people and my father pointing at me like I was someone else's problem. The food's not for you. Just drink water. That wasn't a joke. That was the truth, finally said out loud. I wasn't one of them. Not really. Just the second-class daughter. The standby option. The one you remember when something needs fixing, never when something needs celebrating. So when I canceled those Paris tickets, I wasn't being petty. I was just done paying to be forgotten. The strangest part? No one noticed me leave. You'd think someone would have called out, followed me to the door, asked what I was doing, but I slipped out as easily as I had been ignored the entire evening. By the time I stepped into my car, the laughter inside had already resumed. I sat behind the wheel, breathing through a stillness that didn't feel like sadness. Not anymore. It felt like clarity. I opened the travel app again, just to double check. 3 round trip, first-class flights to Paris, a 5-night stay at Hotel Le Pavillon de la Reine, dinner reservations, private Louvre tour, Eiffel Tower dinner cruise, the works, all scheduled for the next month as a surprise. It had taken me 12 months of careful saving. I took on freelance work, skipped my own birthday plans, chose this trip over replacing my aging laptop, because I thought maybe if I did something big enough, beautiful enough, it would finally mean something to them. But there I was, sitting in the dark, hands cold on the screen, looking at reservations they never even knew they had, and canceling them all with 3 taps. Cancel trip? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. This action cannot be undone. Confirm. Done. I stared at the screen for a while after. $18,750. Non-refundable. Gone. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't feel the panic I thought I would. What I felt was free. For the first time, I wasn't working to earn their attention. I wasn't buying my way into affection that should have been mine all along. I wasn't trying to prove that I was good enough. I was just done. I deleted the trip from my calendar. Then I pulled out of the parking lot and drove to a small Thai place I liked. I ordered takeout, took it home, and ate it barefoot on my balcony with a blanket around my shoulders. No birthday music. No forced laughter. No cold glances. Just me and the city lights. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done. Not yet. I didn't need to. Because silence, I've learned, is a language all its own. And in my family, silence only becomes loud when it comes from me. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from my mom. Her tone was breezy. Hope you got home okay, sweetie. Sorry if Dad went a little overboard. You know how he gets with his jokes. Jokes. That's what they'd call it. A man publicly humiliating his daughter while passing a platter of roasted duck. I didn't call back. I just listened once, then deleted the message. No confrontation. No long-winded explanation. Let them wonder why the Paris trip never appeared. Why the itinerary I hinted at weeks earlier vanished without a word. Let them ask each other in confusion, frustration, maybe even guilt. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't giving answers to people who'd never earned the right to ask. It took 2 days for the confusion to start leaking through. First, my brother posted a cryptic status. Funny how people show their true colors when it matters. No tags, no details, but I knew it was about me. Then came the group text, the one I hadn't left yet. My mother sent a photo of my dad in a robe, sipping coffee with a forced grin. Birthday boy still glowing. The message felt like a cover-up, like they were trying to prove to someone, maybe themselves, that nothing was wrong. But something was. I could feel it. And by the 3rd day, the cracks showed. Jason texted me directly. Hey, weird question. Did you book something for Dad? He keeps checking his email like he's waiting for tickets or something. I stared at the screen for a moment, then locked my phone and didn't reply. That was the beauty of this entire moment. They had no idea what they'd lost. Not fully. They only had pieces. Hints. Gut feelings. That quiet panic when something you've come to expect suddenly doesn't show up. The Paris trip wasn't just a vacation, it was a power shift. It was the moment I realized I didn't have to scream to be heard. I just had to stop giving. And silence is a powerful teacher. My father finally called me himself 5 days after the party. Voicemail. Lena, if there was something you were planning and it fell through, that's okay. But next time, just tell us. We can help cover the costs. Cover the costs? He really thought this was about money. As if I'd canceled a gift because I couldn't afford it. As if this was a mistake I needed help fixing. As if he hadn't stood in front of a full room and told me I wasn't welcome at his table. I didn't call back. They tried once more. This time, an email from my mother. Long, wordy. Rambling about misunderstandings and family tension. And how everyone says things they don't mean. She ended it with, it would be a shame to let one moment erase all the good we've shared. Let's move forward together. Together. That word used to mean something to me. Now it sounded like a leash. They weren't reaching out to repair anything. They were reaching out to reclaim control. to rewrite the story before anyone outside the family could see the truth. But I didn't reply to that either. Instead, I got coffee with a friend, laughed through an entire brunch, and scheduled a solo trip to Lisbon just because I could. Because I wasn't the girl waiting to be noticed anymore. I was the woman who walked out, quietly, deliberately, and let the silence tell the story for me. After the email, I blocked them. Not out of anger, out of necessity. Because I knew how this would go. They'd call it a misunderstanding. They'd downplay it, twist the story. They always did. And if I left even the smallest door open, they'd wedge themselves back in with guilt and expectations. So I closed the door, locked it, walked away. That was the last time I heard from them for nearly a year. And in that silence, everything changed. My business took off. The brand I built quietly on weekends and lunch breaks finally exploded. One of my social media campaigns went viral. I got featured in a business podcast, then a lifestyle magazine, then another. Clients came pouring in. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. I moved into a new apartment, bright, full of windows and air and freedom. I hung plants. I hosted dinners. I invited people who didn't make me shrink. And not once, not for a second, did I miss the people who made me feel like furniture in my own family. Meanwhile, word started getting back to me. Not directly, just in snippets, the way news travels when people want you to know something without saying it. Jason's startup failed. Investors pulled out. He had to move back in with my parents. My dad's business took a hit. A bad contract, some unexpected taxes. I never got the full story, but I heard enough to know things weren't smooth. My mom? Apparently she started attending church more often. Looking for peace, someone said. It was almost poetic. The people who told me I was too cold, too distant, too hard, suddenly facing the chill of a room without me in it. And I didn't gloat. I didn't laugh or post cryptic messages or throw their silence back at them. I just kept living. Because I wasn't punishing them. I was protecting myself. There's a difference. People think going no contact is cruel. But what's cruel is spending your life begging people to treat you like you matter and calling that family. What's cruel is showing up year after year with gifts and effort and grace and being met with empty chairs and full plates you're told not to touch. I didn't walk away to hurt them. I walked away because they were hurting me quietly, constantly, and pretending it was love. And once I gave myself space, I saw it clearly. They needed me, not because they loved me, but because I held the emotional structure together. I planned the calls, sent the cards, bought the gifts, bridged the gaps between arguments. I was the glue, but glue gets tired too. And when it stops holding everything together, things start to fall apart. That year, the quiet one, was the year I finally became whole. Not because they changed, but because I stopped waiting for them to. It came out of nowhere. A single text. No context. No preface. Just, "We've been thinking about you. Can we talk?" It was from my mother. 11 months and 2 weeks after that birthday. I stared at the screen for a full minute. She had always been the diplomat, the smoother over. She never raised her voice. She just raised her eyebrow. Disapproval in her world wasn't loud. It was subtle, icy. Growing up, she rarely said, "I love you." She said, "Be careful." She rarely said, "I'm proud of you." She said, "Don't overdo it." And now here she was, asking to reconnect like I hadn't spent most of my life auditioning for her affection. I didn't respond. A day later, Jason texted me too. "Hey, I know things got weird. I think we all miss you. Also, could use some advice on something." There it was, wrapped in sentiment, coded in half apology, the ask. Not surprising. My success had become hard to ignore. My face had been in a magazine recently. My brand was now collaborating with a global campaign. I had even spoken at a small business summit, a video of which had made its rounds on LinkedIn. Jason was probably drowning in pride-swallowing regret. And my father? No message from him directly. But I noticed a follow request from a new account. One of those obvious fake profiles that parents use when they think they're being subtle. I didn't accept, because I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. Their silence hadn't changed me. My own had. In that year, I'd unlearned the way I'd been to be palatable. I stopped asking what I could do better. I stopped rearranging myself to fit a table that was never built for me in the first place. I started saying no. No to emotional labor disguised as obligation. No to guilt parading as love. No to being the family's backup plan, crisis manager, and uncredited cheerleader. I poured into friendships that gave back. I worked with clients who respected my time. I said yes to joy, rest, laughter that didn't come with consequences. That growth was quiet, but it was loud inside me. So when they reached out hoping for a reunion, what they didn't realize was this. There was no one left to bring back. I hadn't just moved on. I had evolved. And the version of me that once would have cried at those messages, typed 3 drafts of a reply, asked friends what I should say, she was gone, replaced by someone who didn't flinch at silence, who didn't mistake a text for a lifeline. Still, I waited a few days before I responded. I let the calm settle in, let the old ache rise, then pass. And when I finally opened the message thread again, I typed 3 words. Sorry, wrong number. And sent it. No emoji. No follow-up. No explanation. I deleted the thread, blocked the number, and went on with my day. Not triumphant. Not bitter. Just full. Because healing isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet certainty that you'll never again let someone pull you back into the version of yourself you had to break to survive. I didn't expect a reaction. Sorry, wrong number. 3 words, sent without fanfare. I didn't need a mic drop. I didn't want applause. I wanted peace, and that's exactly what I gave myself. Still, the fallout came. Mia, a cousin I hadn't spoken to in months, messaged me the next day. Did you really say that to your mom? I didn't answer, but I knew what that meant. The story was circling. Not the real one, of course. Not the version where I was humiliated in front of 30 people. Not the version where I quietly canceled a luxury trip because I realized I was just a placeholder daughter. No, I'm sure their version sounded softer. Blurred. Convenient. She's been distant. She misunderstood. She's cold. I've heard it all before. But this time, something was different. They couldn't control the narrative, because I didn't come running back. I didn't fight for my place. I didn't defend myself or explain or offer them a script to revise. I gave them nothing. And in the vacuum of that nothing, they were left with the truth. They had lost me. Not temporarily. Not emotionally. Fully. Jason tried one more time. Through a different number. We're family. You don't just throw that away. I read it while sipping tea in a bookstore cafe, sun hitting my face, laughter bubbling from a table nearby. A friend across from me slid a new book into my hand. You'll love this one, she said. And I realized in that exact moment how much I didn't miss them. The way they made me question myself. The constant feeling of being not quite enough. The way my wins were brushed aside and my help taken for granted. Family doesn't mean proximity. It means protection. It means celebration and correction, not humiliation and expectation. I didn't throw them away. They let me rot on the shelf for years and only noticed when they wanted the benefits again. They didn't miss me. They missed what I used to do for them. And once I stopped doing those things, they called it distance. I call it healing. So I didn't reply to Jason either. Instead, I turned off my phone. I finished my tea. And I let myself sink into the safety of my own boundaries. Walls I had spent years learning to build. Not to keep love out, but to keep myself in. Later that evening, I journaled the moment down. Closure is not a conversation. Sometimes it's a door you close gently and walk away from without waiting for a knock. That text, sorry, wrong number, wasn't just a clapback. It was a declaration that I was no longer available for guilt, no longer reachable by manipulation, no longer interested in proving my worth to people who only saw it when it was convenient. In the weeks that followed, I didn't hear from them again. No more texts, no more emails, just quiet, but not like the quiet I used to dread. This silence was sacred, mine. I filled it with music, with dinners that ended in laughter instead of tension, with clients who sent thank you notes and friends who hugged with both arms. I filled it with freedom, because when I said sorry, wrong number, what I really meant was, you're not calling who you think I am. That girl, the one who kept trying, doesn't live here anymore. A year to the day after my father told me to just drink water, I hosted a dinner party. Not out of spite, not as a performance, but as a celebration of peace, of growth, of my own damn table. It was small, 8 people tops, my closest friends, a few colleagues who had become chosen family. No formal invites, just real connection. Warmth that didn't need RSVP cards to feel official. I cooked everything myself. Roasted chicken, lemon potatoes, a simple pasta with garlic and oil. I opened a wine I'd been saving, lit the candles I used to say were just for guests, and played a playlist of quiet soul music that made the space feel alive. Everyone brought something, a pie, fresh bread, wildflowers in a jar. But no one brought expectations. No one asked for anything but presents. When we sat down, I noticed something I hadn't expected. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't trying to keep anyone happy. I wasn't scanning faces for disapproval. I wasn't hoping to be enough. I just was. Halfway through dinner, my friend Kara raised her glass. To Lena, she said, smiling across the table. For building the kind of life most people are too scared to even imagine. And for making space at her table, not just with chairs, but with heart. Everyone clinked glasses. Someone joked about how my roasted potatoes could start a religion. Laughter spilled into the corners of the room. And I realized this was the dinner I had always wanted. Not the Paris trip, not the big gestures or expensive gifts. Just to sit at a table where I wasn't starving for acceptance. To feed and be fed emotionally, spiritually wholly. After everyone left, I stood in the quiet for a while, barefoot, glass in hand. I thought about the last year, the silence, the rebuilding, the hard, invisible work of unlearning the idea that love had to be earned with sacrifice. I thought about my parents, about Jason, and for once it didn't sting. It didn't even register as loss, because what I thought I was missing was something I never had in the first place. A seat doesn't mean belonging. Blood doesn't mean home. Sometimes you have to leave the room entirely to understand you were never supposed to shrink to fit inside it. I looked down at the table, empty plates, crumbs, lipstick on glasses, and smiled. I used to beg for a place at theirs. Now, I set my own, and no one here would ever be told to just drink water. They'd be offered seconds, and laughter, and a safe place to speak freely, because that's what I built. That's who I became. In the end, it wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering who I was before they taught me to question it. I didn't need their table. I needed to know I was always worthy of my own. And I built one with love, resilience, and boundaries that don't bend just because someone shows up late with an apology. I blew out the candles, washed the last glass, and went to bed knowing something I wished I'd learned years earlier. I wasn't too much. I wasn't hard to love. I was just in the wrong room.